Welcome back. We've been looking at reading a passage and summarizing it in one paragraph or in particular points. In this segment, we're going to look at what happens when you are asked to summarize, but not so much in writing. So what can you be asked? You can be asked to use a flow chart. I've said there that flow charts show certain aspects of processes, and they are usually accompanied by other types of diagram. Now, what I'd recommend is when you do a flow chart, choose sort of one symbol for the beginning and the end. So I'm trying to draw a sort of roundy one. And then for the ones in the middle, possibly choose square ones. So a flow chart ends up looking something like that. And you can see from the sort of oval that this is the beginning, and you can see from this sort of oval that that's the end. And the steps in the process of the flow chart are in a slightly different shape, but that's what a flow chart looks like. So if you were asked to do a flow chart of what do I do in the morning, you'd say, wake up at whatever time, I shower, I dress, I go to school, and I end up at school at 8 o'clock. There's your flow chart from the time you wake up to the time you get to school. Okay, so what happens if you're told, here's a summary, summarize it in the form of a flow chart? Once again, you would take notes, and then you would put it into this diagram after you've taken the notes. So let's have a look at how to make a yeastless pizza. You need to measure out 500 ml of flour and sift it into a large bowl with 7 ml of baking powder and 1 ml of salt. Then make a well in the center of the flour and add 50 ml of milk and 150 ml of olive oil. Mix these together with a wooden spoon until you have a soft and plastic dough. Roll out thinly and line a large oblong baking tray or pizza dish. If we just stop there, you can see that you're going to have all of those steps. So how to make a yeastless pizza, you would start with your oval. So it would be how to make a yeastless pizza, and now we're going to have to do the flow chart. All right, where do you start? You need a large bowl. So I would actually put the large bowl right there. So take a large bowl into which you measure out 500 ml of sifted flour. Then your next step. You mentioned that you need the baking powder and the salt. So all in here, before we get to the next step, would be sift the flour with the baking powder and the salt into the large bowl. Then we're going to make a well. So that would be your next step in here. Make a well in the center of the flour and add. So you'd put that and you'd put add. And if you felt you couldn't fit it in there, then you'd put it into the next one. Add the milk and add the olive oil, and you'd put in the amounts that you're adding. Now what you can do is you can actually put the word add here, and you can draw up and down. So let's go up first of all. You could put there the 50 ml of milk, and you could put here with your arrows going both ways, you are adding the 150 ml of olive oil. So you can draw up and down. So if we go back to looking at this, you are allowed in your flow chart to add one thing up, down. You can even add 2 arrows like that. And you add this and you add that. So don't forget, your flow chart can go up and down as long as it continues to go to the end. Let's go back to what we were looking at here. What are we going to do in the next one? We're going to mix. Mix with a wooden spoon until you have a soft and plastic dough. That would all go into the next block. And then you would, I can't fit it in there, so I'm putting it here, you would roll out thinly. You can, if you come to the end of the page, go down, and then you can head this way. And we would line a pizza dish. We go to the next step. Grate 500 ml of cheese, mix 2 tins of chopped tomatoes with all their juice, 3 ml of basil, 3 ml of oregano, salt and pepper to taste, spread tomato mixture over pizza dough, sprinkle over cheese and bake at 220 for 25 to 35 minutes. you'd simply go on in the same way, showing each step. Now, when you come to the mix, I'm looking at this bit, mix. Once again, you could go up or down, or you could also go forwards, like this. So you could say mix, and you'd put here tomatoes, there the basil, there the oregano, oops, I need another one, down here salt and pepper, and then you could go on. So that's another way of breaking up your flow chart. So you're mixing this, 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 and this, and then you move on again. And remember, when you get to the end, you draw your oval. And that's how you would do a flow chart. But notice you'd have to make really quite detailed notes. And in our next segment, we'll continue to look at summary writing.